So Friday was a big, big day for one General Michael Flynn. His attorney, Sidney Powell, and his whole team filed an 8-page filing asking for a immediate dismissal of the case against him. They say they now have evidence that show that he was framed. What do we know?
We know that the Attorney General, Bill Barr, has ordered an independent review of the Flynn case. In other words, people not at the Justice Department, main justice, who are directly involved in the case. And he handed it off to the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Missouri, a guy named Rosen, who is a former FBI agent. That lawyer sent a pile of material from the Flynn case files to the U.S. Attorney in D.C., Tim Shea, who then sent it to Sidney Powell, who based her pleading on those documents. What's interesting about this is that information did not come, allegedly exculpatory information, did not come from the lead attorney prosecuting Michael Flynn, Brendan Van Grock. It came from the person that Barr appointed, the U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District of Missouri. It is then, just as that story is coming out, a story appears saying that Chris Wray and his general counsel at the FBI, Dana Buente, did everything they could to block the production of that information to General Flynn's lawyer. The source for that story, according to the press, were an FBI official, and that means there's a mole at FBI headquarters. Another source was alleged to be a person with direct knowledge of the situation. The FBI later issued a strong denial that Wray and Buente had tried to block the exculpatory information about Flynn from going to the court and to Sidney Powell. What you have going on right now is, this is the Durham effect. It's like a halo. What's happening is he is clearly investigating FBI officials and DOJ officials from the Obama era, along with intelligence officials, for a conspiracy to violate the civil rights of Flynn, the president, and others, and also to defraud the citizens of the United States. From that little letter from the U.S. Attorney, who is in the Eastern District of Missouri, we now learn a boatload about what Durham is doing, including the fact that Durham has even hired former FBI agents, not current FBI agents who are detailed to him, but former FBI agents. And in the middle of all of this is David Ignatius of the Washington Post, who was the source of the famous story about Flynn's telephone call with Kislyak, the Russian ambassador, about sanctions. It's unraveling. I expect charges, some against individuals, some part of a conspiracy, a number of things. So, big week last week, a lot going on.
Okay, Joe, you said some things I'd love to get some more answers on. So you mentioned that Durham has hired former FBI agents. That does, as you highlighted, sound unusual. Why would Durham hire former FBI agents?
Particular skills, and because he knows them. When you're doing something like this, which is very sensitive and very difficult, because this is a leak investigation as well as another type of criminal investigation, you need people you can trust and people who've done this before. And all of the people that he has hired, interestingly enough, including a DA from the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, pretty fascinating stuff. He's doing that because he needs them. He needs people he can trust.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I question why it took so long for Flynn's attorneys to get this Brady evidence. I don't understand why it's taken till now. I mean, we thought when President Trump became president, he puts his new people in it. And listen, I get that we had to go through the whole thing with Jeff Sessions and we had to wait for the Mueller report to come out. But it's been months since the Mueller report came out. Why now? Why has it taken so long?
Because it's coming to a breaking point. The Attorney General has tried to be patient, and he's also tried to tamp down criticism by making a few statements, as you've seen in the last week. about how serious the investigation is and how it's beyond just troubling, that there were serious, serious violations of the law as far as he's concerned. In order to do that, in order to get to that point, you've got to be locked and loaded from your investigation standpoint. You've got to get people interviewed. You've got to get people locked in on their testimony so that if they change their testimony later, they can be prosecuted for false statements. The real proper use of false statements, not the phony Mueller-Weissman use. And remember, what Durham is doing, he is deconstructing the Mueller-Weissman inquiry. This investigation by Durham will show conclusively that the Mueller-Weissman investigation was a fraud, that it was never intended to find a crime, that it was intended to entrap the president to get an impeachment for a false statement if he gave an interview, which of course his lawyers and lawyers like us told him never to do, never give that information. So that's why it's taking time, Mary. It's taking time because he's destroying Mueller as he makes the case against Clapper, Brennan, Comey, and Sally Yates and others. This is a big deal. He is actually investigating the greatest crime in American history.
Joe, but in the minute we have left with you, I want to ask you about the Senate Intelligence Committee last week, led by Richard Burr, coming out with a report saying, hey, look, that initial intelligence community assessment that says that Russia was interfering in the election exclusively to help Donald Trump get elected, that was correct, says the Senate Intel Committee. What say you?
Oh, poor Richard Burr, not running for re-election as a Republican senator from North Carolina. He is the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee in name only. The real chairman is Mark Warner, the little dunce from Virginia, who spent his time communicating with Russians and lawyers representing Russians during the inquiry into the Russia hoax. That's a disgraceful report. The report that meant nothing. We already knew the Russians interfered in the election. Right. The question was, what did Trump and his people do with the Russians? Answer, nothing, according to Mueller and others. This report by Burr is a joke. It's an embarrassment. It's designed to make him look different and better and sort of above the fray. He really is a hack, and the sooner he leaves the Senate, the better for the country.
All right, Joe. Well, we have these conversations. You keep telling me that people are going to be indicted, people are going to be arrested, we're going to start to see some justice. One of these days, I'm still waiting. So you give me hope every week, Joe. I appreciate it.
Have a Manhattan or an old fashioned. You'll be fine.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Joe DiGenova.
Mary loves her old fashions.
I do love my old fashions.